Hermetics comes from the teachings of the ancient messenger of the gods named Hermes Trismegistus. Then we're going to go back to Egypt, all right, and we're going to go to a being. Now we're going to these avian-headed or bird-like beings, all right. Remember, you're going to start looking. You're going to start these animal-headed beings. Like that's how can that be? So you're going beyond your normal aspects. We're going back to the original. Okay, far older. We're going right back pre-Egypt too. We're going to get into Sumeria. And if you want to go into Atlantis, some people think that's some concept, but it's removed out of society because of very good reasons. It keeps people, in a particular level. So we're going back to this guy called Thoth, this fellow. Thoth, okay, he's an ibis-headed god, all right? And there's incredible pictures of this being. And apparently he had this tablet. It's called the Emerald Tablet.
Okay, welcome to another episode of the Master Builder Podcast, where each episode we explore the spiritual nature of consciousness and the spiritual laws of the universe to awaken our potential, power, and purpose. I'm your host, Eric, and today I'm super excited to introduce a special guest, Michael Lamb. Michael is a Kabbalistic alchemist and studied for 9 years at the School of Inner Knowledge with Hermetic Lore, universal healing, color, sound, the elements, vibration and numerology, astronomy and astrology, as well as cosmology, and astral and mental projection. He is a teacher of the occult mysteries, electro magnetism, ancient Eastern and Western philosophy. He is a true adept of Tarot, Kabbalah, and dozens of other meditation techniques. And in addition to that, he is also one of a handful of teachers who have had a real practical impact on my own spiritual journey, which I'm truly grateful for. So, with that being said, greetings and welcome to the Master Builder Podcast, Michael.
Well, thank you very much, Eric. It's a real pleasure to be here. So it's good.
It's a real pleasure to have you here. So thank you for taking the time. I know you're pretty busy running all over the place, teaching the world. So
Yeah, that's just this world. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Right. Well, well, how are you doing today? Before we dive in, just want to check
Oh,
in, make sure you're doing well. Like I said, I know you were busy teaching today even, right?
yeah, even when I'm struggling for words, I think I use the It's a technique because people were struggling in the classes. They go, So we just finished one workshop, was shuffling through another and allowing for time anomalies across the planet. I think daylight saving had just finished, and we had
Right.
students around the world, and things were going, hang on, you've lost an hour, we're gained an hour, allowing for the curvature of family-sized pizza, whatever. It was just this crazy mess up. So excuse me. Sometimes when we're going through some tech issues, whether it be, Mac or phone or some of those, check your browser settings and things like that. So you got to allow for that. So I think you become quite the adept in shooting from the hip, so it could be as simple as a power issue or blackout or something, or whiteout, the white noise. So I think you get
Right.
the whole spectrum here, but it's been wonderful because we had so many really positive, affirmation. And once again, in your workshop, you always get the spectrum, people sort of just coming through in the intermediate, and you get these incredibly advanced, holistic healers, and they've come from Africa, or they've come from South America or Asia or something. Like, oh my god, okay, so we've got to adapt to that philosophy, and then working with that, that pantheon or that kind of healing modality. So we want to be able to sort of become in tune with this universal dynamics. So I hope that sort of answered my hello. I'm doing all right.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'm not
Confirmed
bad,
everything I already
mate.
thought. So yeah. That's great. Well, excellent. Well, let's go ahead and dive right in then. So I wanted to start off, I know you're so skilled in so many of these esoteric disciplines. And of course, I know a little bit about your origin story, but maybe you can tell, the audience a little bit about yourself and how you got into Hermeticism, alchemy, Kabbalah, Tarot, and all the many spiritual disciplines you've become adept in over the years.
That's an excellent question, full of excellent questions. So I'll start, as I say, once again, I'll start from I was born, exactly in the East, and I was in the Northern Hemisphere. And as I said, my father was, in the military, but also he was a carpenter, so I had the structural background as well. But once again, I was quite open to a lot of energy when I was younger. When you're a kid, you think, "Oh, geez, what do I like about that person? I don't like about that person. I don't want to breathe their air." And yet, I felt I could communicate with animals and plants like empathically. However, obviously, as we're younger, you go through school, and there's some good kids at school, and there's obviously a lot of brutal kids. So you're going in the mix. So I learned to have to defend myself and things like this, and thinking, how's this world working? And then I got introduced to a few things. Obviously, to defend myself, obviously, I was going through martial arts, and I really liked the Eastern philosophies there. However, there was this thing in the West that was always seemed to be like, but it's hidden. Whereas in the East, I mean, you get your dragons and your Nagars, and they love that. Like, let's say if we look at the Chinese zodiac, you've got a dragon in there. You don't get that with the Western zodiac. You get a set of scales or something. She's big. So anyway, I did more advanced martial arts, more into the philosophy, which was Togakare Ninjutsu. That was when I was in my 20s as well. I was doing, the West, the more stylized or the more mainstream was those sort of systems. They're very sort of linear. They're excellent for, once again, your development, like everywhere you start. And then I learned about the elements in this martial arts systems, like you become an earth posture. What's that? What's a fire posture and a water posture? Because I was quite into the stretch and the flexibility. My father, got me into a lot of fitness when I was younger because, discipline, from the military, and also, helping him on construction sites and that, when he come back out of it, so I learned structure and measurement and dimension and things like that. And also, obviously, when I started my apprenticeship in trades and things like that, I learned to, development of building things from spheres to round objects and things. So I had a good background there. I won't dilly dally with all that. I moved on. And when we were at, it was about 1985, I came across a particular, I was quite, I suppose, I was reading a book, and it was called One Pointedness of Concentration. I actually have it up here behind me, by William Cook Edwards. And I was reading it, and it was only like a 70-page small book, like one of these really punchy little books that just, obviously we didn't have the net back then. And I was just reading because I had this wandering mind. I was always very easily distracted. So I really needed this. Anyway, this fellow what approaches me, because I was sort of a bit out. I was going to go from this martial arts system and go to the other one, and I thought, what am I doing? This fellow approached me and said, "Do you enjoy that book?" And I said, "Yeah, I really do." And I looked up, and it was William Cook Edwards, the author of the book. And obviously, then he became my teacher for the next 9 years. And we had the School
Wow.
of Inner Knowledge. There's only about 5 or 6 of us at the beginning. We're learning how to. I mean, the first night alone was like, why we learn to meditate, what's the power of visualization, and why concentrated focus. So along with that, and then there's like planets. I was really interested in the planets, but I don't know. There's that woo-woo stuff about it, and then there's like this energy of, wow, what's the power of Jupiter and Mars? What's that? Because I was sort of very much into, obviously stood up, studied a lot of the military aspects and warrior combat systems, because with ninjutsu you had to write essays on different martial arts, as well as warrior philosophies, warrior codes, like, say the Luftwaffe or the US Air Force or the Royal, Navy and things like this. There's like a warrior code, and even with, I suppose motorcycle gangs or whatever, or warrior codes or codes of ethics within, let's say a business community. So, oh, wow, look at these really powerful, and they're quite virtuous, really. You put your energy, into the dynamic of that clan, that badge or whatever. Anyway, within the school, like within 6 months, I didn't realize it, but it was like within 12 months, we're doing the Kabbalah, and I couldn't believe the amount of stuff. Like I did my first color and sound. So obviously we're doing through meditation, concentration, visualization, and then
Hmm.
we're learning about planets and meditating on the planets, which I found was a big issue with a lot of later schools. And we're doing the planets. However, to lead up to that, we did our first elements, and the elements obviously being fire, air, water, and earth. And the beauty about that was it was Western as well as Eastern, but it was also, there was this Middle Eastern, what is about Africa and the Middle East and India and Iraq and all these places. Oh, wow, let's go into that. And he was teaching some of these philosophies. So it's like, oh, wow. So the next grade is you're sort of studying religions philosophies, and and then we're doing these healing techniques, where you calm your mind, you move into blue light or any other different dynamic. The big thing was the mind, so we're learning about our mental body, and then feelings, dreams, astral body. You're in the astral planes. Oh, your dreams make up 30 of your life. Oh my God, yeah. Plus you also have them on the waking, your focus, your goals, your where you want to achieve, and also distracting thoughts. What are thoughts that are not yours? And wow, it was exactly what I needed at the
Mhm.
time, because, and meanwhile there was incredible things going on in the world. There was a beginning prior to the video games were coming out, and most of them
Mhm.
were based the Dungeons and Dragons model, which Gary Gygax had developed, and there was all these incredible, fantastic beings. I'm thinking, wow. I mean, I started coming across these beings. I'm thinking, am I creating them or are they real? And then later, as I had a friend of mine who he'd been in the merchant navy. He's originally a Greek Macedonian guy, and he's telling me all about ancient places when he stayed in Turkey and Eastern Europe, and he'd seen these incredible skeletons of giants and so on and so forth. And I learned with the School of Minute, put everything on the if shelf until you understand it. Have like an if shelf. Oh, I don't know about that, but I'm intrigued by that. Since I was a kid, I want to keep connected, not to just like that new age concept of a kid, but like there's parts of me that was always passionate about life, and like, oh God, well, what's this, about the Zulu? What about this about the Norse? What are these Aztec? Are they the warriors? But they got these healing, these witch doctors. What's going on there? I was like, wow. So we learned to develop that. And the more we started to meditate with the elements, it was like we're not just going through the postures that we're learning in the martial arts. We're bringing the energy on, the liquid energy, and then, of course, the constellations and Eastern and Western concepts. And this is not like in the mind. You're going deep into your spirit, spiral, akasha, and etheric energy, building the etheric, which holds it all together. So there was a lot of development there. There's nothing you can draw a 5-point star or 6-point star on the board, or 7-point star or an octagon or something. And once again, obviously, after I finished the school, I moved into sacred geometry and a lot of different aspects like that. But anyway, I don't know if I've just covered what we did. Once I got into the Kabbalah about 6 to 12 months in, it was incredible. Writing, like, I think of the first color, I think it was E or D, or was a combination of, and it wasn't in, obviously, with Barnes' work, you have to go through A, B, C, D, which has actually helped a lot of students. So we
Mhm.
did D. It was dark blue. It was just this rich blue. I did this color and sound. I'll just start with D. And I did. I just wanted it so bad, but I was focused. I said, "What? Deep blue all down my hands and around my body," because we'd already learned to start building it in the bodies. Wow. And I stood up and I felt like this empowered giant, and just so still and so calm and so connected to everything. And I thought, wow. And then later, we're not just doing the colors and sounds. We only worked with a few colors and sounds, but we got good with them. And then we were working with other planes and dimensions, because he was working with a lot of Alice A. Bailey's work, Leadbeater, Blavatsky, and a lot of these other dudes. Plus, there was that, and his teacher was West Indian, Jamaican too. So we're going back into the 50s. Yeah, yeah, you got the whole going. You don't, you think oh, it's in the East. Oh, no, it's in the South. Oh, it comes out of Africa. Oh, it's Latin American here. So there's adaptability. So I believe we become these universal beings that are connected to many different modalities. Obviously, we'll align with where we're meant to, when we're
Mhm.
supposed to be there. But I found it just this plethora of knowledge. I was just eating, literally, knowledge, or digesting it at multiple levels. So I hope that's explained your question or series.
Well, yeah, I was curious, how much did Franz Barton's work play a part at the School of Inner Knowledge as well?
It was an integral part. I'd say it made up about 25 to 35, maybe 40%, which is a big amount when you think, oh, I didn't, everyone's saying, I thought it'd be the whole thing. No, because once again, Alice A. Bailey's work, and the various philosophers. There's Steiner's work as well. Plus, you know, there'd be aspects of Buddhism and Hinduism thrown in there as well, because you understand. Oh, who's this Shiva dude? And then we're looking about Jehovah and
Mhm.
Allah and these kind of beings. I mean, and thought forms, plus the energies of different gods and angelic beings, because you're still running, the Christian concept of the 9 orders of angels as well. So about 35 to 40% of Barden's work, once again, the disciplines, we didn't even know we are doing Barden's work. I didn't know until like about about 2000s, early 2000s, a friend of mine said, we're doing Franz Barden's work. Because I had a student come to one of my classes. Oh, you're the best teacher. Well, I heard you this great teacher, Franz Barden's work. And I go, what? I was like, because I just knew how to build color and sound. I was like, because once again, in a way, it's sort of sometimes better you don't know what you're doing and you're doing it, that way rather than, you're grabbing it from this. I said, I don't know. I've never heard of that concept. And then, yeah, that's all Barden's work, initiation, Hermetics. And I knew what Hermetics was. And I had to find an umbrella to teach. And I just said, alchemy, that'll do. Because people don't understand what Kabbalah is. And thinking, it's a bit of
Right.
red cord. You listen to Madonna. And thinking, what? People are coming out of it. No. Language
Right.
of light. Yeah, exactly. So it was this ancient High German or ancient, Hebrew, different concept. Anyway, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, it's a very engaging concept when you do it. And then obviously, there was the book, and I thought, oh my God, finally it's here. Evocation. We were doing evocation with these beings. There were some of the ones that we started to work with, elemental beings. And I had no idea. I just knew you had to be very, very disciplined, had to, draw a circle, mentally, or you do it on the floor, to hold a being. And I realized the concept of how shape holds energy, or shape stores memory and things like that. And then I found other teachers as well. But many teachers, because you never want to think you know it all, which is a big trap for the spiritual guru. So like you
Right.
always want to be growing. Who's this young guy? It was same with music and all theater and things. Like you want to be open because there's something there that's hidden. As I say, a little bit of good in the negative or something. Or whatever, or the good and bad and good and whatever. So you want to be able to adapt to that yin and yang, because that was still a universal symbol that plays out. So yeah, Barb's work about probably 35 to 45%. I mean, honestly and accurately. But once again, I grabbed the 3 books and I ripped in and said, oh wow, I know this. Yeah, da 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 da. There's other people that hit it like this new. A lot of people get Barb's work. It's like, like what? And whereas if you're quite adaptable and adapted to it, go spells and things like this is just like second nature, and you understand the concept of speaking and so on and so forth. Hope that answered your
No,
question.
absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
good. It was a pretty cool school. As I said, I was
Yeah,
like,
I can imagine. I think it
wow,
would have
27
been
miles, say, whatever to
amazing.
get there.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, because I've also done quite a bit of study with Mark Rasmus, through his online courses,
Yeah.
and I think he also spent some time there with you at that
Yeah.
school as well, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he was there. I think I was 85, 86, 87. I think he rolled along there. He was 85, 86, 87. He had a kung fu school, and Bill asked me to teach. It was one of my first teaching assignments. It's like, and you've got so much energy running through, but you're also half packed because you still haven't developed your skills yet. You're just this young kid, and you're trying to be. I'm trying to teach this, and I end up teaching them the elements, and Bill, raked me out of the coals for it. Okay, teaching them that. It was the best thing I know because I was so immersed in the elements. Oh my, the elements are in your hands. The 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is so good. You guys got to know this. And it's like you must be from another planet, when you're talking this concept. Although some do get it. They get, he's got it. And I think I was into the martial arts back then. I was doing dive rolls and learning how to do break falls. And, so it was a bit of a show, but Mark remembered me for that. And he got back in touch and he said, look, man, it'd be great to have you come at a time, because he kind of touches that. It was one of those Hermetic schools or something online, and I just answered something, and the guy goes, "What the? Who are you?" Like da da da. So da 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 da. What? Because Mark Rasmus is probably the leader in qigong and Tai Chi teaching, plus many of the different martial systems, of the East, and plus the philosophies, and obviously. Yeah, just a year with Bill, like, like you're off the charts, exactly. Anytime you want to on a planet Earth is good. However, yeah. So Mark got in touch with us and he says, "Is that Michael Lamb, D. Michael Lamb, that dived over my lounge room?" Something. Yeah, it's quite the. I love flexibility and dexterity, and I found that was really adaptable in the astral and the mental planes as well as the akashic as well. So,
Yeah.
yeah, you got to take in touch. Come over, you got to teach the tree of life, and oh
Hmm.
god, but it was really good because the students were just, they were just brilliant. I met some incredibly beautiful people. So
That is wonderful. Um, so yeah, I wanted to ask, like, because like I said, there's so many different disciplines and areas that you cover, right? Like you said, so as far as how you, I guess, you're teaching today, do you kind of put it under the umbrella of Hermetics? Is that what you consider as
Yes.
your main focus right now, teaching Hermetics or Hermeticism?
Yeah, I do. I do put it under the umbrella of Hermetics and alchemy. However, some students just come in straight. They want the Kabbalah, or they want the Tree of Life. As I said, Mark asked us, "Do you want to do the Tree of Life?" Oh, can you just teach the Kabbalah as well? I'm like, oh, 10 days, and I'll do 3 days. I didn't think I could do all the colors and sounds. However, if you're quite adapted, without being egotistical a bit, I did the best I could. Plus, you want the students to get a real feel, and the big two really you want to get people to understand feel is, well, obviously the three. You live on planet Earth, sun and moon. Solar and lunar. I mean, there wouldn't be a planet, there wouldn't be Earth, there wouldn't be life without these particular aspects, and they're deified basically in every single culture. Nothing exists without them. So obviously, the magnetism of the moon being feminine, and the masculinity and electric energy of the sun. However, both of these concepts, the sun has feminine energies, and the moon has masculine energies, depending on the culture.
Hmm.
So yeah, that was a big ask as well when I reintroduced it, because I used to just do a lot of smaller programs. People just get, oh, can you talk about astronomy, or can you talk about astrology, or I suppose, oh God, how do you say this without either cutting back or over it?
Right, right.
Yeah,
Trying to
yeah,
combine
there
it all
was.
together.
Yeah, I had
Hmm.
mystery schools and going, and people didn't seem to grasp the nature of it. So I felt I had to keep dumbing it down. You would get students that would come down. I didn't want to go, one wouldn't want to just perform to the LCD, the lowest common denominator. You'd find students that come from all walks of life, all, colors and aspects as well. So I'm enjoying the work. So yeah, I'm really loving the workshops we're doing now. I really enjoy the way we're doing it now. We've got a really good synthesis, and I've also got Manuela here as my partner, and she's helped with a lot of the feminine energies and the shamanic aspects as well. So shaman means fire, or light, man, as it were. Um, it's going to be I think it's going to be a really big year for us. Obviously the year of the dragon, 2024 wooden dragon. So the workshops have been fantastic. Now we've got a lot of integration, so it's a great platform. I mean, we did the first workshop this year. We put in was initiation to hermetics, or an introduction, and then we did the elements workshop, which the students love. It was an 8-day program, 1 hour a day, which is fantastic. Initiation hermetics we did over 10 days, and it was a real good introduction. It wasn't just initiation hermetics. We had a lot of people from different backgrounds, and we
Hmm.
integrated those that workshop. We got them to get a feel for the energies of the mental body, the astral body, and the physical, because now we've integrated in these workshops a very beautiful synthesis. We're actually feeling the soul in the physical body, the mental body in the physical body. So when you're taking the breath, the air is to the mental body, you deep. Manuela takes them through the shamanic healing side of things, and then you get into the liquids, different techniques. But the benefits of these workshops are off the charts, and we're just finishing up now our protection workshop. A lot of people wanted psychic self-defense, protection, mental protection, and cleaning their aura, their astral body, cleaning the home, removing negative entities and things like this. So our protection workshop, it was a brilliant platform, and we've just had feedback every day. It's like so many good people saying how powerful and how simply we've explained the 5 point star, the cross,
Hmm.
or the 6 point star, Star of David, and the elemental aspects. So we've covered a lot of beautiful ground there. What's the difference between, bringing a kasha or spiraling energy? And once again, we start, if they're simple, basic levels, that they'll start with a circle around protecting, and they go into the ball of light, and then we move into Taurus. They realize, oh my God, four-dimensional sphere. So Taurus and building within the body is paramount in the teaching integration, because you can tap all the bodies very I'd say authentically, simplistically, and the mind with the air is like engaged straight away. It's not getting caught up with these ridiculous little thoughts of what time things are. So Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds. I've taken a look at some of the new courses you've been offering, and they really look wonderful. So, I was wondering maybe it might be a good idea too to explain a little bit what Hermeticism is. I have a lot of listeners that maybe they're still new to Hermetics and Hermeticism and what that actually is. When a lot of people first hear about it, maybe their only association might be like, the seven Hermetic laws from the Kabbalion or something like that, right? And so I would
Yeah.
love, yeah, maybe you can just take a little bit of time and explain, from your point of view, what is Hermetics, what is Hermeticism, and how can it act as a, I guess, as a philosophy or a path of self development and spiritual growth.
Very good question, and I'll do my very best to answer that. Okay, Hermetics, all right. So it's like a heritage rather than a his story. It's her heritage or whatever. It's actually a lot more than that. It's a balance. So we'll go back to the very, very beginnings of it. So Hermetics, there's a lot of words that come up, particularly hermit. People go to study because a lot of us actually, we're not lonely people. We like to be alone and be strong in our space as well. So Hermeticism is when you're actually getting tuned back into you and you're honoring, let's say, your higher self or your future self and your younger self. You actually tap back into your timeline. All right. But I'll go to the word itself. Hermetics comes from the teachings of the ancient messenger of the gods named Hermes Trismegistus. Now, the planet Mercury, which is probably a very important planet for you to learn if you're going to meditate, hence why you get the flow. Mercury is the Romanized version of the planet Hermes, or Hermes is a god. So literally the planets become like the seasons and cycles, or you can see them as gods and goddesses, or like whatever culture. If you name the river, you name the mountain, it has a name. Wait, we're going back to Hermes Trismegistus in Greece. We're in ancient Greece, Macedonia, Eastern Mediterranean philosophy, and then we're going to go back to Egypt. All right, and we're going to go to a being. Now we're going to these avian-headed or bird-like beings. All right, remember, you're going to start looking. You start these animal-headed beings. Like, that's how can that be? So you're going beyond your normal aspects. We're not just going into Jew, Hebrew, Jewish Hermeticism here. We're going back to the original, okay? Far older. We're going right back pre-Egypt too. We're going to get into Samaria, and if you want to go into Atlantis, some people think that's some concept, but it's removed out of society because of very good reasons. It keeps people, in a particular level. So we're going back to this guy called Thoth. This fellow Thoth. Okay, he's an ibis-headed god. All right, and there's incredible pictures of this being, and apparently he had this tablet. It's called the Emerald Tablet. Now, all our computers, all our phone, even as you're looking to me right now, are all controlled by quartz. So, quartz crystal is actually what's running things. It's not woo woo, oh, it's crystal, it's quartz. Well, every single phone, it's all metals and crystals, it's all metals and stones. When you know how to lay it all out, then you're going to get into some real power. You're going to find out about ancient, priest breastplates and things like this, or these layout of stones and, high energy superconduction and things like that. Okay, getting back. This fellow was meant to have given us language through light. He brings forward. So, it's like the Adam and Eve story. Okay, you're actually looking at a series of these evolutionary beings on the planet, but you've got this, instead of evolution and creation, you've got intervention. When you put in the intervention key, you've got these beings that have come here and they've altered DNA of some of the, let's say, the locals, whether it be Neanderthal, Homo erectus, Homo habilis, or these other species, and they've sped up the DNA, or they've altered, they put in strands, so they're genetic. So hence, you'll see the symbol of Caduceus that the medical profession use. That's his symbol, okay, and he's connected to Enki and Enlil. We're going to go back to Samaria and these Anunnaki beings, and it all sounds hypothetical unless you do your research, and this is all written in stone. And these steles have been around for thousands of years. So I've got a story that bullshit doesn't last for thousands of years. So even the days of the week are named after certain gods and goddesses. So that's real power. Like you've got these whole churches and religions, these incredible, fanatics, and want to destroy the old culture, get rid of the old culture. However, there's great truth, and the word truth comes from Thoth. So Thoth is this line of beings that connect to knowledge, and it's like with your spiritual progression, you'll hit ceilings, and then you'll have an aha moment, and you go through the next level, whether it be Eastern or Western. And this is what we're training, in the workshops, as it were. It's obviously what I'm meant to be doing this cycle. So this Hermeticism is actually working with one's own soul, spirit, and physical body to not just ascend, like you got to go up. It's not. You go, as you go above, you go below. As above, so below. It's like, you got to understand, you got to nurture the soil for the plant to grow. You got to get, water and food to you. It comes on the earth. So it's like you're not getting out of yourself for the wrong reasons. You're connecting to your higher super self, your soul, which is astral, and then your spirit, which is your akashic, and then you have etheric bodies and things. You're learning to develop the skills of the ancient star beings. We're suns, and we're all suns, like SON and SUN. Do you know there's a combination there? And the naught is the 0 and the 1. So phallus, womb, tomb, it's all interchangeable. So even the codes, like the binary codes, the Fibonacci, you'll learn all this. You just become at one with everything, whether it be science and super mechanics, mathematics, biology, chemistry, physics, whatever. You become that. But you get a chance when you do Hermetics, you just like step in through the window, or you step in through the back door, rather than going through these incredible ways of like verbatim learning, with it tuning into yourself. And it's not just going woo-woo. You learn to build spheres of energy within your body, astral, mental as well, because you've got it anyway. It's already around you. So Hermeticism is about understanding that you're a connected being. It's not just like some hippie love. You're working with universal love, or pure light, universal light. Mark and a lot of the ancients of the East, they call it non-dual light. I prefer, like Akashic light, or blue light. There are different colors at different frequencies. So you learn that color, sound, number, shape, and vibration have always been here. And even the time matrix, because in alchemy, the philosopher's stone, which is the highest order, it took about 25 years to crack the code. But once you understand it, it's about learning about longevity, and how to, let's say, which is what many of the ancient warriors and philosopher kings and everything that, Alexander the Great, once again, he was chasing it, obviously, and all the great heroes are all looking for it, no matter what. That's the thing. But it's about not just longevity in the physical body. It's about what we call, the philosopher's stone, and how to survive, increase your abilities. You're not just physically dead. You understand you've been here for many, many incarnations, although you do have young soul. So Hermeticism is connected to everything. I know that's a very long way to put it. However, Hermetics gets you to love yourself
Mm-hmm.
and love life, no matter how challenging and how destructive it is out there, because there's some things that are beyond our control. However, one gets to see higher planes, higher dimensions, higher beings, plus connect empathically, intuitively to your higher psychic skills, psychic senses. Everyone has got them. They just have to remember how to be themselves again. So Hermetics basically gets you connected. So the word hermit comes from that too. One would want to be quite, number 9 in the high arcana of the tarot, the hermit, which is Virgo. So they stay within themselves, and they do self-analysis and program. How druids and monks, run to the caves and the hills. And so that is understandable in certain people's lives, because it's quite a challenge to survive in certain societies. It can be quite a lot, and plus, some people are quite quiet. They're quiet. So Hermeticism is basically, it covers a lot of schools. So originally came out of Egypt, and then the Hebrew scholars took it on, and then there was obviously the Gnostics, and we'll go through all the time. I don't know if we have the time to actually go through the different layers and different schools, right through from the different alchemists. However, a lot of people don't understand that, people such as, Isaac Newton and Leonardo, they're actually alchemists behind the scenes. They're actually connected to these particular hidden orders and things.
Mm-hmm.
Don't want to go on a secret societies and whatever, but you can understand why they keep a lot of the knowledge away from the masses, as it were. So you become your own adept, your own zealot, your own student, as it were,
Mhm.
under great teachers. So I believe I've covered that. If not, ask another question.
No, that's perfect. So it's kind of, yeah, this umbrella of I guess spiritual knowledge and science, I guess, you might say. So yeah, I really appreciate that. It's kind of interesting because right now it feels like we've kind of entered into a period of time where with technology and us being able to we're talking right now, right? You're in another country, time zone, and so we're able to spread information and knowledge faster than any time before, right? And with that being said too, it's interesting because I do see this kind of um movement of more people becoming more interested in spirituality than they were in, let's say, the last, maybe, well, not for somebody like yourself, but in regard to the masses, like the last 20 years or so, or something along those lines. So I would love to be able to hear too, because now it almost feels like, and I encountered this myself actually, where there's just so much information, being able to discern like what's what, and like what's true, what's false, what's delusion, what is confused information or misinformation. And so I would love to be able to hear like this science of hermeticism and alchemy, and like how that might be different than, let's say, what might be considered like new age spirituality, right?
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear your thoughts about that.
Yeah, I developed completely different to a lot of other people. As I said, once again, I got out of the school around 1995, and I studied under, well, I took on a lot of other different teachers, and there were some really good books in that as well. So once again, obviously we're going into this AI movement, watching that platform, particularly in the 90s, I was watching the internet grow. I was right there at the forefront of, tech, watching it, with a lot of my friends who were into communication things. All right, so we're looking at the development. We look at geometry and maths and also quantum as well. I just going back over that question again. Can you just the first?
It was just really about like the difference, because there's such a scientific approach to what you're teaching, and hermeticism
Mhm.
and alchemy and that sort of thing. And like I was mentioning, that there's so much information right now, and it's kind of all kind of under the umbrella of new age, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and
yeah.
sometimes it can seem like that doesn't really have the structure, let's say, to be able to like
Mm.
traverse a path of like where you really feel
Yeah,
like you're
right.
developing, right? You just end up
Yeah, yeah,
in a circle spinning around. So I,
yeah.
yeah, I was just trying to get at if you had a
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
any insight into that.
No, I would too. Yeah, yeah. New Age to us got a really bad reputation. We were seeing once again back in the 80s and the 90s as well. There were some brilliant schools and that around. However, there were a lot that were just woo woo. I remember I ended up going to it was like a spiritual church. I ended up getting three students because I just went and said, oh, at the end of it, oh, you can do this and do this and do this, da da da. Whereas the one at the front, she was just sort of, I don't know, repeating or collecting information and things like this. So at the moment, yeah, New Age got a bad name because, well, and it's a lot of it can be woo woo. You read a lot of the books and they're saying the same things. Whereas when you're actually working through, the virtues of courage and discipline, you're going into deeper philosophies, deeper cultures, and it's a whole thing. All the science, all the chemistry, all the physics works. However, in each of these cultures and each of these religions, there's traditions and there's limits. Most of the universities only get you so far. There's a lot of suppressed science. There's a lot of suppressed mathematics, and it just doesn't go into the mainstream. A lot of it goes underground, obviously, for the MILTR, da da da, and so on and so forth. You'd be blown away by the amount of tech that's happening on this planet. People think, we're still going to the stars. We're going to use rocket ships or something. Nope, it's a lot more advanced than that, and it doesn't happen. It doesn't get it to the mainstream. That's obviously what the mainstream is. It's the same as in the spiritual communities, the UFO groups and that. They're not. They're still talking about Roswell and things like what the, and some of the when you actually connect to the people, I'd say connect to the people, the spirit of, let's say, of the land, you're going to get a different version and a deeper aspect. So the same thing happens with Hermeticism. You're going deep. You're going to talk to people. What really happened in that war? What really happened? Oh yeah, my grandmother, my grandfather used to say this, and this. So you listen to that, and with your own development, you get a very good barometer or a thermometer of what is truth and what is not, because of what you've done with your development, whether you're going into psychic skills and things like that. Like you said, there's obviously there's the bad aspect. So learning your own intuition. Okay, five senses, and your six is your intuition, as it were. This one here, so it's like that. Uh, like a cop gets a hunch, or a good detective gets a hunch, or something like that. You're getting that gut feeling. So you're learning that is a barometer, and that's working in you. I don't like this person because it feels this way, and you're right. Or you got a really good intuitive thought. I should have invested in that gold. Doubled. Bitcoins. Oh, it's going. So you get very intuitive because you're becoming quite familiar with it. So once again, with science, there is a lot of science. A lot of things get capped at Einstein's theory of relativity, where I teach my students to work with Nikola Tesla's work or Grebenikov, and there's a lot of science that's happened in other cultures and that doesn't hit the mainstream in the West, and vice versa. You get the news from different countries. Oh my God, that's what's really going on, as opposed to these filtrations on filtrations on filtrations. And also, there's stories that my friends have told me that aren't even spiritual. They said, "Wow, I really like what you're doing, but I don't understand it." But anyway, here's this story about this guy that da 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 did this and da da da, and I believe that. You know what I mean? They'll still hang on to something that's quite powerful because it blew their mind, but they can't talk about it. They just think it's coincidence. And co means three times. However, when you start to work with a lot of the planes and dimensions, you actually start to have very deep connections into your dreams. You become lucid. You're awake in your dreams. Other people's, "Oh, I had a nightmare, blah, blah, blah." However, you're becoming very aware of the astral planes. And this is, once again, a lot of different teachings from different teachers. There's people that can teach astral projection. And you might want, if you're going to go to remote viewing, you'd learn from the master Ingo Swann, obviously. And obviously back in the 60s, they were picking up a lot of psychics. The military were, the alphabet agencies, they were working with them, psychic spies and things like that. And that was happening obviously during the Cold War. This is real. This is seriously real, but it gets knocked down in the mainstream. It's the same thing with astrology, And I mean, you need Vedic and sidereal. You want to work with that. That's more accurate, in the actual position of the planets. Millionaires don't use astrology, but billionaires sure do. They sure do. Yeah, 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 different types. And, yeah, well, they know about particular alignments. That's why certain days are very, very powerful. And I mean, look at Easter. I mean, the name Easter is from the goddess Astoria, who's a fertility goddess. And that's where you get the egg, who symbols the egg, and the bunny rabbit, not this hang out on bloke's nail to a cross. So cultures and religions tend to put their stuff on what's already existing, and then they sort of twist it out of the way. But also Easter, the time it falls is the first full moon after the equinox. So even when they push it out, the Catholic Church, it's still there. That's why sometimes in March and sometimes in Easter. And all the time is out of whack. A lot of people are out of whack with things. You get these 12 months, and should kind of be 13 with the 4-week cycle, the feminine cycle. You're looking at this, and October is the 10th month, where it should be the 8th month, and things like this. So there's been a lot of work behind the scenes to knock people out of sync with their reality, with nature and attunement. You got to, even with the people that are working with anti-gravity devices, and you got to tune in with nature. You want to work with nature. You want to work with the energies that's available. And it's the same with magnetism and electric energy within our bodies. We've got the whole thing running. I mean, look at your heart. I mean, our minds are phenomenal. However, our heart, oh my gosh, it's pumping all this vital life force around our bodies. So I went through and studied under some brilliant teachers, and then also they were pretty impressed with what I was doing too, because instead of just like listening or learning and teaching it, you need to integrate it into you. How can this benefit me? Hence why we use the workshops, that we're producing here, with the new Blue Poseidon venture that Manuel and I are launching. It's very powerful about integrating it. The 5 point star. Wow, we got that in our body. 6 point star. Oh, wow, it's in our DNA. It's all here. It's. Oh, we carry the cross on our back. Oh my God, it's everyone thinking it's outside. However, Hermeticism teaches you to bring it into yourself as well, internal, external. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out, and obviously the tantra schools and all the other different systems, they get to that. Rather than it's all Buddha. No, there's different Buddhist systems. There's different aspects of Hinduism. There's breakaways. So yeah, you're not just looking at just new age woo. You're tapping back into ancient law, ancient cultures. I mean, look at the energy in that of the pyramids. I mean, to write the stats on that, you'd be here for months. I mean, you're going into the different work of, and then you got these massive structures like in Mexico, the three pyramids there, as opposed to the three pyramids of Giza. They're both mathematically lined up to the stars of the belt of Orion. I mean, what the, you know,
Right.
you know, so wow, you've got these incredible maps on the planet, and there are books written about it. You just got to go looking for it, and this is when you really get into the deep stuff. And star lore. Think, oh, hang on, we're named after suns. Oh, hang on, all Hollywood, which is illusion, is like holy wood, and it's there's stars. There's a galaxy of stars, or they get a logo or an Oscar, which is a gold, and the whole thing is phenomenal. So once we get through the Maya, or what we call the veils, we start to look way, way beyond what was called this new age. It is very, very old school, and particularly if you're looking at reincarnation. There's some brilliant books out there. Once again, Journey of Souls, and they're written by people that were tough skeptics as well. Harry Oldfield developed the Oldfield's lens, and he was a tough science skeptic, and he wanted to disprove all this work. And then he found out, oh my God, you can see entities and beings around being people, but mainstream doesn't want that because they're off just keeping people where they are. Otherwise, it gets a bit challenging, as it were. Okay, I hope we've answered something there, or opened up another Pandora's box.
Yeah, no, that was great. I think, yeah, it's really interesting because it does seem to be kind of hidden, like, I don't know if you have, any insights or feelings like, why does it need to be hidden? Is that part of the, the part of the process of evolution that's, part of the design of creation? Is it some other reason? So
Oh
hopefully
my
I'm not
God, if
opening up
only
another
you
can
did.
of worms for you, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, the word occult means hidden. It's like the word pagan, the people of the country. That's what it is. And it's all demonized because if you brought this knowledge out, the world religions would just collapse overnight because people would just see through the bullshit. So they're controlled through fear and indoctrination and things like that. And once again, like, oh God, I follow this or else, God, Jesus, Jesus. Well, these beings, as I say, what's Jesus? He's a son of God. It's like, they're sons. When you see it, you see it. It's not knocking the religion. It's just saying, you've manipulated. And how many books are missing out of the Bible? Geez, I could name 30 off the top of my head. Apocrypha and, the book of Genesis, book of Enoch. And what's Enoch? That's Enoch becomes Metatron, Metatron's cube. And what do you look at Metatron's cube? You go into 3 and 4D, like you're learning how to reactivate your energy, even advanced meditations. I mean, this is not for like dry as dust scientists or dry as dust, physicists. They're working that way. And I met some really advanced, physicists and that when they're getting into quantum, in a particle and a wave, you're looking at that, but you're actually creating that with your body, and particularly doing this with hermetics. I know this sounds like all quite convoluted, but however, when you're looking at it for what it is, so once again, religion has a vested interest in keeping people, in that regard there, and so it should be. But there's philosophies, philosophy, PHI is the key to the Fibonacci, sequence, which they read off as fibs. That's all lies and blah, blah. But the Fibonacci sequence is the mathematics of nature, and it'll show you that. So once again, the shape of the apple is a torus, shape of the orange is a torus. And what's in the middle? It's like string theory through the atom. And what's it do? Self-replicates, reseeds itself. So explain 4D that way. This is not just, woo-woo new age. You just look at the seed. It has all the knowledge of that fruit and the tree and everything before it. You take it away, it's in the middle of the air, you put it back in the ground, and you love it and you nurture it. And then you regenerate the tree of life, which creates the flower of life, which creates the seed of life. So this is what happens, obviously during, making love. We once we have the orgasm, our astral body or our soul and a spirit come together as one, create a vortex, and then obviously a soul comes in. But does it come in from the up or does it come in from out? So you know what I mean? You're learning multidimensional physics, chemistry, biology, and all of this simply through going through Hermetics. However, it's not the simplest journey. It's definitely the pathway that's not walked or traveled. Obviously, if we're looking at Muhammad or a Jesus or a Buddha. These are beings that have done a lot of work. They're obviously trained in certain schools, whether it be Kabbalistic or, in the Eastern schools or the Egyptian or, some of the ancient schools and that, Hyperborea and that off Ireland and places as well. So there was a lot of advanced cultures in Ethiopia, the Americas, you've got it. It sits there, but it is not in, let's say, the power broker's best interest for this knowledge to get out. So they will do everything to stop it, because you've got to understand we're not doing this new age light work. We're not here to be goody goodies. There are a lot of beings. There's a big understanding that people need to have. There are beings on this planet that feed on negative energy. Okay. They're here and they're real. And it's about how much energy you put into it. So once again, going back to some simple philosophies of where your mind goes is where the intention flows. So your attention, put it into things that you love, that nurture you, the people you love, that kind of energy. It's so easy. There's 1,000, 10,000 distractions out there. And just traction, you lose traction of thought, you lose energy because of another shiny thing or this next movie or this next sports game or whatever. I mean, it's okay to have those things because we're human, we're having a human experience, as it were. However, we don't want to lose sight of who we are. Otherwise, you'll get trapped in Maya. And that's the reincarnation cycle. And there's heaps of star beings here, caught in cycles of blah, blah, blah back in the material, because it's such a strong program to break through. And, tech is awesome. We work it. However, it's all been here before, because you're going through the paradox, which is the key of this. You're going through the paradox of not just time and space. You're understanding that as soon as you think it's a zero, it's a one, and then you think it's a one, it's a zero. So, which is your binary code. And people say, "Oh, this is a cache, or that's a 5-point star, it's a 6-point star." It's everything at the same time. However, you got to be able to discern it. So we live in a material world. We need boxes to put things away, as it were. So it's that kind of paradoxical aspects. And when you get into your pranic tube and into your own self energy, you get to slow things down, because mind's phenomenal. Your mental mind is absolutely phenomenal. It's like the RAM in your computer, or the random access memory in your phone. But compared to your spirit, it's a toy. It really is. It knows. However, it's got layers and veils. However, if you start to remove the veils too soon, what size straitjacket would you like today, sir? Because you're going to go nuts. So you have to go, yeah, if you get all your sets, some people have, advanced clairaudience or clairvoyance and that at an early age. So I don't know if I've explained that or confused you even more. Probably both.
No, no, that makes a lot of sense. You mentioned, yeah, the, reincarnation process and kind of, I guess, samsara, right? That kind of stuck in that loop, right? And specifically, you mentioned star beings, right? Maybe you can talk a little bit more about star beings, what that is, and because it seems like you were alluding to the fact that they're they specifically could get trapped into kind of this loop, and maybe they're here for some specific purpose, or that sort of thing, and these distractions are specifically targeting them in a way, right, to kind of
Yeah,
make
yeah,
them lose focus.
absolutely. I could use probably some Christian terms here, if I may, or whichever system you prefer. For example, this is the world of matter, all right? So it's the world, it's Lucifer's world, as it were. And a lot of people think, oh, no, God owns it. That's not how it works, unfortunately. So you're here. You can tap the light being. So even the name God is really a newer concept of that. The word for God was El, elemental, elementary, El, the great El, El, Elohim, El. Shaddai, which is the name for Jehovah, and you can go through all these different gods and goddesses. Okay, and they have a lot of control, and they also understand how to manipulate energy very, very well from their beings, and plus, obviously, through people. So I don't know if I've got myself in this sort of paradoxical aspect. Star beings, okay, so you are sun and you're a soul. So if your soul, which is your liquid body, your astral body, is like obviously controlled by emotions and moods. Okay, every thought you have, and you obviously have about 30 to 70,000 a day, every thought you have has a feeling. Feeling is liquid astral, thought is air. Okay, empathy, telepathy, in the physical body, matter, earth, and obviously the spirit is fire, light. So these beings have a vested interest in basically sucking souls, all right, or draining the energy. We've all been in a room and we've talked to these people. Oh God, my energy's drained out. Okay, whether they know it or not, but actually what happens behind the scenes are beings that know how to manipulate this sort of energy. So you've got to be shielded, which is what we're doing in the protection workshop, showing people how to protect their mental body, astral body, cocooning or using these techniques. But we're showing the benefits of why it's important to have a light energy body and hold and maintain it through certain, disciplines, techniques, and obviously being virtuous as well. It's relevant. It's not like, once again, you have to be this goody goody, like, oh, I'm going to do everything through the light, and da 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 da, and lose your personality, because this is a tough world out there. You've got to learn to say no. You've got to tell people, to get fucked when you need to. Like, listen, fuck off. That's too much, sort of thing. But that's cool. But you need to swear. Like a lot of young guys will use metal music, to keep as a shield so they can get on with it. They find that rhythm, or they want rap or something, whatever's working for them to shield so they can focus and get on what they want to do. And, girls will find Wicca or whatever they do. So that's what's, relevant to where they're coming from, because it's a tough world. And, show business is a tough business. And when you find out what's really going on there, that's another big, oh my God. So to develop protection is to hold your own space. You're hermetically sealing it. So getting back to Hermeticism again, you're sealing it so nothing can get in, yet unless you choose what comes in. Once again, people don't understand about contracts. You can get a lot of things in this material world, but you just sign the line. So it's a contract. So your signing is your gold, gold, graphics, grammar, and that signature becomes quite powerful, particularly as with beings of the let's say other dimensions, planetary beings, spiritual beings, they have an autograph or a signature. There's tractual obligations. So people make more and more contracts with the way they believe things are. However, if they're free from that, they're free sovereign beings, as it were. And there's a lot of strength in your own sovereignty and in your own designation. Did I make the decision, or being influenced by the mainstream media, the newspapers, blah, 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 blah? That's the beauty now of the net. As I say, there's bad in AI and there's great in AI. The net, once again, you've just got to see it as a tool which works for you. Obviously, if you're going to be a musician these days, good luck, because it's a tough world out there. It's not about albums and things like that, because everything just gets ripped off or whatever. A lot of these things that do take place, but the thing is, well, if that's what's going, that's how it is. You've just got to find another way to adapt and develop things. So we've got to work with what's on the table, as it were. People say, oh, it's so tough, it's so hard. Yeah, but you're not in World War One, in the trenches or something, or you're not stuck with poison. And you might have done those cycles. You're coming back to, okay, I'm actually in a pretty good space. I'm in a place. I'm doing good, really. So center yourself, and that's why meditation on oneself and connection to source is so important. Actually, look, I've got this incredible life. Everything is awesome. This planet regenerates. It's beautiful. Once again, you've just got challenges. As you go up the level of the video game, the bad guys get bigger, sort of thing, and tougher. So you got to find more magical armor. And once again, we are following some of the ways of the magi, as it were, who visited Christ or Buddha. So three kings, three magi. They're magi. Okay. So they have advanced modalities, obviously through astronomy, astrology, or alchemy, or, physics or chemistry and things. So you're looking at beings like that. They're the kind of cats you want to hang out with, in my
Right.
opinion.
Sounds like it. Yeah. Well, excellent. Yeah, I appreciate that. So yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about, and I think you're going to be maybe teaching one of these courses in the near future, Hermetic Tarot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so I would love to jump into that a little bit, and if you could explain a little bit about what Hermetic Tarot is it different than regular tarot? How do you use it as a kind of a tool or a guide for spiritual development and growth?
All these huge questions. I hope you're ready for 10 minutes for the answer, because it's not going to be a 5 minute answer. So tarot, if you take the T is always the earthing aspect, like spirit in a spiral, and you put a T at Earth's. There's different crosses anyway. I'll get into that. So tarot, if you put it, is rota or circle or wheel of life, which actually happens to be card number 10 in the High Arcana, which is actually the rota or the circle of life, the wheel of life, or the karmic wheel of life. Hence, when you wake up, you wake up in your dreams in the astral planes, you wake up in other planes and dimensions, you realize, oh my God, I'm actually quantum. I can be in two places at once. However, this is where people say, oh, we haven't got the answer to it. Yes, we do. You just got to realize that you've got it in yourself. So tarot wakes you up to the main um, connections to these higher forces. And let's look at some higher forces. Okay, the sun, nothing exists without the sun on this plane. Nothing. I mean, the whole photosynthesis of every single plant. So you're looking at infinite, quadrillions, infinite amounts of, the plant kingdom and the forests and, all the atmosphere and the moon, the tides. We've got magnetism going on here. We've got the planet Earth, Gaia, we've got these incredible forces. Our bodies come from the earth, and our soul and spirit ascends to the stars. Don't worry, I'm getting to the answer. I really am. I just want to give you a bit of a background. So you got the sun, all right? So the sun creates, it's just like, why would it create? It's why, when, at time, you've got a sun in you, and that's your spirit, your seed, your bloodline. And you've also got an ancestral bloodline that goes back, so you were birthed, your grandmother, great grand, and so on and so forth. You got this ancestral bloodline. So blood is your vital force. It's liquid within you as well. So each of these aspects are influenced by planetary energies. Okay? But the sun doesn't just happen to be, a hot rock in the middle of space and just randomly, create, trillions of tons of life on Earth. So all right, there are sun beings and star beings. Okay, so there's advanced aspects of the sun. So this tarot deck I use is the Hermetic deck. Okay, and it came out of the Golden Dawn around the turn of the 19th into the 20th century, around there. Obviously, there's some very famous people came out of there. Obviously, Rider and Waite, which is the most popular deck in the world, the Rider Waite deck. However, I find that a little bit basic. They were both members of the Golden Dawn. There was Mother Shipton and Diane Fortune, and obviously, the infamous Mr. Crowley. But the main leader of the order, and it was a secret order. Obviously, a lot of stuff was coming back out of Egypt, and they'd cracked a lot of codes, and was sort of, the Egyptian society had found things that sort of didn't contradict the Bible, but it made it look a lot more watered down than what they had. So obviously, you've seen these massive books, these huge books, like wow, and then you see these saints in there, and they got all these incredible symbols, and you, oh my God, they're astrological symbols. So they've mastered planets and constellations, which leads me beautifully into this segue with the Hermetic deck. I've got the High Arcana, the 22 pathways. So originally there was 22 letters in Hebrew. So with the the deck, it relates to your 12 constellations, and of course we see there's 9 planets, but you also have sun and moon, which is 11, which gives us 11. And then of course there are hidden aspects as well, and there's the 3 elements. So you get, roughly, you get the 22. I'm not going to go on all the different pathways. However, the planets play a big role here because they're interchangeable with these ancient names. And I'll just use Western names here at the moment, otherwise I'll get into Eastern and the Americas, and I'll be in, South Africa in no time, sort of thing. It's like, oh God. So I'll just use concepts. So if we looked at the cards of the High Arcana, the first card is the Fool, and it represents 0. It's actually a very, very powerful card. It's the Fool is the jester, and we've all been the Fool. And on the symbol there, you see the sun, and he's like in these waters and waves, and he's about to do this crazy thing. He has the dog there, all right, and the symbol for Pluto. Now, this is advanced. Normally, I teach this card last because there's so much really, really going on there, all right? So, Hermetic deck has all the planets and all the constellations relevant to each card. So, you understand, you're learning. This is why it was good we learned it in the School of Inner Knowledge, that the planets play a big role. For example, Pluto, the Greek name for that is Hades, the underworld. All right. So in this world, different things like that. Anyway, I'll go straight to the first card, which is very, very advantageous to us in this world, is the Magician. And you see here with this, you'll see this Mercury figure. All right. Now, Mercury is the messenger of the gods. He's Hermes, which means he can run through all the planets. And Mercury, that we learn elementally, is to air. So the tarot, we're starting to learn with the elements and the planets, but also we're getting a deeper feel of the elements. Now, once again, if you're building on elemental postures in martial arts, that's fine too. But remember, the elements in meditation, very, very powerful. And most of the philosophies, you're not going to get anywhere very deep without the elements. They're going to give you a lot of strength, a lot of knowledge, and a lot of energy to work with. Obviously, you're going to go back to that. So each of the planets relate to elements, and each of the elements obviously have different flavors. For example, if we just use the normal astrology symbols, you've got three types of fire. You've got an Aries fire, you have a Leo fire, and a Sagittarius fire. You got three there. So that's form. And then three types of earth, which would be obviously Taurus, Virgo, and then, of course, you'd have Capricorn. And three types of water be Scorps, Scorpio, Cancer, which we call Tashia, and Pisces. And then three air signs, obviously Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. So each of these signs are stars. So it's a big circle. So you understand, if the tarot represents the clock, okay, so the zodiac is the clock, the 12 apostles, the 12 saints, the 12 numbers. So it's a giant clock. So our sun grows through these larger stars on this wheel. But it's not just you're running around in circles, you're actually spiraling. It's just a little click out, spiral up, spiral down. What's running through us? DNA, which is a spiral. So it's actually connected. And these planets, or these gods, hence why we looked at gods, or goddesses, with Venus and, your lunar goddess. So, say, Moon would have a name, Artemis, or Diana, Venus, you could get Aphrodite, or, Kuan Yin, she's quite the motherly, the loving figure. You need that. Mars are these Aries, the energy, or war gods, or something. There's that energy, dynamic industry, and things like that. So each has a lot to play. So you get to understand, with the Hermetic deck, you're literally learning astrology, astronomy, as well as cosmology as well. So you're getting a big nest of all this sort of knowledge. However, that's a lot for your mind to deal with. So when you meditate, you want to feel it. And also you want to sort of separate yourself, because you want to get into your intuition. So you want to be able to ground it, or, feel it through, your various liquids. And your mind, obviously it's got to make sense. It's got to add up, or something. It might be a paradox. So, okay, mental mind's going to go into loop mode here. So we just want to feel it. And there's going to be usually an esoteric meaning for it. It's like when we go, oh, that crystal stuff's all woo-woo. So, well, man, the original watches, they had jewels. Rolex watches, got a ruby spindle. You're actually dealing with stones. And again and again, most of those stones are mentioned in the Bibles and all your texts and things. So your actual cards here are actually metaphors for planetary and constellational energy. It might not be actually happening in the sky at the time, but it's a test or a pattern that's actually playing out in your life, as it were. A pattern. Okay, I think I answered that. Whew. Mm. Yeah, yeah, that's good. You're the director, the writer, and the actual actor, as well as you're the the support. Plus, you're getting the coffee and the juices in the background too. So look at it. I mean, you got this phenomenal life. What you can do and what you can achieve. Like, hey, wow, look at this. It's like, oh, I'm peering behind the curtains. I'm seeing how things are working behind the scenes because most people they're caught in the illusion of, like, let's say the news, or they actually believe the characters of some movies and they're real. I mean, obviously, it's something like Breaking Bad. Like, God, they're really acting that, sort of thing. They're really intense. I just see them on stage when they're being interviewed. Oh God, there they are. So because the intensity acting so accurate, as it were. So yeah, it's like seeing behind the working aspects of the scenes, but also it's not just about that. It's actually proving it to yourself. So hence, once again, I'm loving doing these workshops. With Manuela, we've been doing a lot of we're having a lot of great feedback with the students with the Q&A and that as well. You want to feed it, say, oh God, I'm doing this pattern again. We've all done it in our lives. Oh God, I missed that opportunity. But opportunities are coming all the time. It's all right. You're rolling with the waves, you're rolling with the punches, and you're dealing it. You're structuring your soul, as it were. So yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I'm wondering too. So you talked a lot about the importance of the elements and the planetary energies and how those relate to the tarot. And maybe you can also speak a little bit about the different, you touched on it a little bit earlier, but the different like planes of existence or reality and how maybe those energies are impacting each one of these differently.
Yep. That's a good question. Generally, we work with the four bodies and the four planes. Obviously, they're going to be the material world. However, and then there's the astral plane, which is like a liquid realm, which is the dream realm, and then of course there's the mental planes where thoughts and things exist, and then you have akashic realms. However, you could look at it in another way that I see it through other planes and dimensions because of experience. Okay, so let's say we use some of the models that are out there, whether they be from different cultures. You would look at, say, like heaven being a high frequency vibration or something like that, or Valhalla, from the Norse gods, where the warriors go, and they come back and incarnate as soldiers or warriors again and again, and Niflheim and things like this. But there's also Hades, Pandemonium, Limbo. It's a state where you're not quite, if you haven't done your test, you're in a state of limbo, as it were. Pandemoniums, there's this chaotic space where people that are in chaotic thought, they'll stay back in that plane, it's a dimension. And also, if people made contracts with the wrong beings, obviously they're going to live a cycle where they have to come back, and they might pass over a couple of times and then come back and wake up, to where they're going, as it were. So yeah, I hope that explains it. There are a lot of different planes and dimensions. You could say there's Nirvana is a plane which we ascend to, and it's beautiful, but once again beyond words. So that'll shut me up. It's just something that some of the students wish to get to.
Yeah, and yeah, that's really helpful. Um, Now you also, I guess you call yourself a Kabbalistic alchemist. I think and I'd love to be able to understand too, and you might have touched on this too about it, but about how Kabbalah connects to tarot, right? If there is a connection there, and also what does it mean to be a Kabbalistic alchemist exactly? What does that mean?
You're alchemizing. I mean, generally people look at alchemy as, basically these wise old chaps with old hats, and they're, mixing these fluids and things like that. However, you can virtually purchase any fluid or quintessence you wish, unless you want to influence it, which we can do, through meditative stages. We're actually looking, obviously for the Philosopher's Stone, you have to be in a state for that. People want a one answer for that, but I just can't one shot Philosopher's Stone until you understand it. So I look at Kabbalism and alchemy as like your Hermetic. Barden talks about it, particularly in the third book, the True Kabbalah, a Kabbalistic Alchemist. So you're perfecting the way that you blend energy and you work with it, particularly elementally, planetary, and as well with the colors and sounds. Once again, people just look at the color or the sound, all right, rather than the number, the shape and the vibration. The shape would relate to the letter. Each of the letters have a meaning and a significance. I mean, you can imagine like just the fonts in your computer on the letter H or the letter A. And it's the same with the symbols and that for the constellations as well. So it's a way to understand that shape is vibration. You know the difference between a bad shape apple and a good shaped apple, or a Lamborghini, obviously, and a bus. They're completely different. A shark and an octopus. So shape has it. Even the word shape, you're looking at the actual SHA, Shah, which is actually a letter Kabbalah. It's a fire, it's a light, so it shapes, it forms. So even when we look at geometry, we have shapes. So when we look at the alchemy behind it, we're working multiple planes. But once again, I usually work on the five. That's fine because there are outer planes. As I said, if you've got a heaven, you've got to have a hell, or an abyss, as it were, or something like that. There are negative and positive planes of existence, plus elemental planes, elemental spheres, where we have a lot of these beings that come in from forests and elemental areas as well. So the tarot helps a lot with that, in regards to actually reading, seeing where you're going in life. However, with the Kabbalistic alchemy, you're more into the elemental development of things, and you can amplify it very, very quickly. Particularly, obviously, if you're a holistic teacher, or you're a practicer of any particular art or energy, you are connected on many planes, dimensions, and energy fields. So you grasp things very, very quickly, whereas it may not seem like a concept that's doable. I don't know if I'm going to lose you here with this, but there are many planes and dimensions where if you wanted to get into the most profound, pure state of meditation, you can access that area and you're quiet, you're away from these. However, there's days you'll be picking up so much, so you've got to learn to shut certain things off because you're so aware. So the Kabbalistic alchemist is the fellow that can blend or work with elements and energies quite freely and openly and naturally, as it were. So that's the beauty of that. So it becomes, I suppose, like a lot of people, I know that they'll be teaching this work, but they don't really get into the geometry. I know people who do the geometry side of it, the mathematics side of it, but they're not deep into the higher advanced meditations or Kabbalistic letters, as it were. So there's a lot to do, and characters of different languages have a lot to do with different sounds and things. Yeah. And another thing, it gives you like it's almost like a universal key that gets you into places that, like the access all areas kind of card. I can't say with everything, but it has given me a lot in my life. I'm very, very happy about that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I haven't really seen much, I think, around like the I guess the geometric shape, as a correspondence to the letters and and all of that before, so that's really interesting. But it makes sense. It makes sense so that obviously there's a color, a frequent like would have a shape and form to it as well too. So that's really powerful. Yeah, I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I'm trying to shorten my answers so I
No.
don't go on. I'm going to grab this and grab that. So
No,
yeah.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I wanted to, I guess, switch gears a little bit and just talk a little bit about like right now. I've noticed we're kind of in these interesting times, right? There's a lot going on in the world. And I know you and I have discussed this before, this idea of transitioning from one age to another age or an epoch
Yes.
of time to another epoch
Yeah,
of
that's
time,
right. Yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
Kali Yuga to the Dwapara Yuga.
Yeah.
And so I would
That's
love for yeah, I would love for you to just talk a little bit about that, about, you know, what that is and the impact that it has on our lives. I think there's another name for like the age we're going into, like the age of energy, and with all the talk about
yeah. Gosh,
AI
yeah.
and the technology
I
and
know.
self, aware, general intelligence. And so, yeah, I would just love to hear your thoughts around, yeah, this transitioning of cycles of time that we're in right now, and the various impacts that might have on our lives.
Yeah, I mean that's a big one, and I do. There's so many platitudes people give with these new words. As I said, I only heard of certain terms. recently, but people put them on. I mean, there was this thing that came out about 20 years ago called unconditional love, and maybe it's older or whatever. So, well, it's just universal love if you love things. So, here we are here with this. We're into this different Yuga age, and there are names for it, and then you don't get it right or whatever. So, oh gosh, I'm just going to flow with it and roll with it. There's an age. I know we've moved into the age of Aquarius now. I know it because it's a 2060 odd year. So there's obviously going to be with big, times like that, there's going to be, I don't know, 60, 70, 80 year handover. I work with the 60 because there's a dance between Jupiter and Saturn that create the 5 and 6 point star, or the macabre and the dodecahedron, which seems to be this virtual imprint of energy through the crystalline and the shapes of flowers and things like that as well. So I do believe we're probably moving in, well, beyond the Silicon Age or into the Silicon Age, or I don't know what children are now, indigo, purple, violet, amethyst, whatever. I'm doing my best here. As I said, I should have all these profound answers, but I flow with what we're going with, and I'm really happy about the workshops that we're doing, because I had to get really back into where we were going, and we're teaching, I think, or we're learning to just adapt daily as well as things come through. But however, it's important to have a really good plan of where you want to go with your life, because everything sort of it evolves and changes so fast now. Basically, anything that comes out, it's either you think you've got it, and there's someone else. Oh, well, has got that. Whatever. So I think there's a real flexibility and adaptability, but not get disheartened. Follow your truth, follow your heart. That's the answer I have there.
I think that's really good advice, so again, I appreciate that. Well,
Yeah.
I think we've been talking for a while now. I know I've been
Yes, I think
asking
so.
you
Yeah.
a ton
Yeah.
of questions,
Yeah.
and you've been so thorough with every single one, and I really
Oh, thank you.
appreciate all the
Oh, sure.
time
Yeah.
that you
Thank you.
have offered us today.
Mhm.
And again, like I said, I know there's so many other subjects we could get into,
Oh
so I would
man, yeah.
would love to
Have us
have you
back
come
on again.
back again,
Yeah,
and
that'd be
we'll
great.
pick some other ones and some other large
Yeah,
topic for you to
thank
jump
you.
into.
Oh yeah, yeah, I know it's a scope. I was like, oh, it's like I go off on tangents. It was one of my biggest issues. I was like, oh God, we got to go here. But I think sometimes it's really important to explore that. There's a key I think, and people need to know, like, to know what you really want to do. You got to know what you don't want to do. So you follow an area and think, okay, maybe this explains it for these people, but it might not be right there. It's like penicillin. I say, 90% of people are fine with, the other 10 have a reaction to it in the wrong way. So you've got to find your truth, your philosophy, your thing that works for you, Eric. So it's been a real pleasure, talking to you today. It's been magical. Even have a few little tech issues, but we'll be persistent. So persistence is omnipotent.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Mm.
Well, excellent. Well,
Thank you.
before we go, if
Mhm.
how can people connect with you and learn more about your teaching, the courses that you're doing? I know you're doing so many
Mm.
things. You're touring all over the place, and like I said, I've taken some of your courses, and they're absolutely
Yeah.
wonderful. And
Oh, thank
so,
you.
how can others, continue to follow your work
Mhm.
and participate in any of your courses that you might be doing in the future?
Okay. Did my email address come up there? It's michaelsalchemy@gmail.com. I can send that through to you, as well as catch up with Manuela Hecht on Facebook. I can give you these links, and Michael's Alchemy at gmail.com, and Michael's Alchemy, the website. And we're producing a new platform that we're very, very proud of as well. We've got workshops coming up every month now. Plus, we've got all the ones you could start from. You're going from your beginning to your intermediate levels, with initiation hermetics. Then we're going to put that again, and we're developing them. We've got Zoom meetings, interactive, as well as professional courses where we do it so it's tight and pro. There's so our next course will be psychic skills, and we'll be learning about a lot of different spiritual beings, whether we separate it, because 8 days and 1 hour a day online is a good way to learn. I'll be back in Chiang Mai around November. There's a course there. We're doing Hermetic magic. So please get in touch with me, Michael's Alchemy. And that's my website, and Michael's Alchemy at gmail.com. Also, you can get in touch with Manuel as well. I'll give you those details, and you can get in touch, because the Facebook is Michael Lamb, or Michael's Alchemy, and yeah, just get in touch, and we'll get you into the programs and have a look at them. Because they're very, very comprehensive. We come across and we do some excellent meditations. We get great results, and because we need results and testimonials, so we have some fantastic feedback there. So yeah, please look us up. You'll see us on Facebook at the moment. So I think we've just been doing the promotions, and at the very least, we finish up the protection workshop tomorrow. That's Sydney time, Eastern Standard, or Pacific time. Oh, hang on, you're Pacific time, so that's the issue. Yeah, so we've been doing that, but the protection, and then in May we'll be getting into psychic skills and psychic development. So we'll be developing clairvoyance and clear audience, as it were. So, and the other skills around that. So please look us up if you're interested in this, and we cover a lot. There's not many questions we can't answer. We do our very, very best. Plus, there's also the shamanic and the healing aspects that Manuel has been doing. So it's really good. So I'm liking that.
Excellent. Yeah, we'll get that information. And if you're watching it on YouTube, we'll put it in the description. So
Thank you so much.
again, thank you again, Michael. It has been a real pleasure. I hope that we're able to do this again. And for now, if you enjoyed watching this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. And may the path of light guide and protect you all. Take care
Thank you
for
so
now.
much. Thanks, Rui.